And the Grayscale case, what was Grayscale arguing?
Basically, it's pretty simple. The SEC approved Bitcoin futures ETFs, and the SEC's logic was the CME regulates Bitcoin futures, therefore the ETF is tracking a regulated thing, even though the futures price is riffed off of the spot market. Right? There's a 99.5% correlation. So the main argument they are making is how could you possibly approve futures and think that those would be okay and not spot? It doesn't make any sense. Because if there's fraud and manipulation in the spot market, it would clearly transfer into the futures market, into the ETF. Approving just futures was like one of these moves that I think only a lawyer or a regulation person would do. It doesn't make logical sense, but it might make legal sense. But the court saw more logic, and they were like, this is illogical. And that's ultimately what the court said. So they said your grounds for denying spot on fraud and manipulation is invalid because you approved the futures ETFs, which are the same thing. So they didn't say approve spot, but they basically said your reasoning is no good. And so the SEC then had 45 days to appeal, and they didn't. And the other option they could do is they could come out when the first filing, when they have to deal with the first filing deadline, which would be January 10th, they could come out and have a new reason for denial. They could say, well, we think custody is a problem now. And that was one thing we worried about, was that they could have a new reason for denial. But we are constantly in touch with people back channel. We have been also looking at the documents, and what's been going on is the issuers have received comments from the SEC on the filings, and they've taken these comments and questions and re-edited their filing to make more disclosure, better disclosure, and they file what's called an amendment. The more amendments come in, the better we are, because that's like a normal process. Every other time they denied the ETF over the 10 years, it was like radio silence and then bam, a long denial letter. So the fact that they're working with the issuers is a huge deal. Clearly, we think someone up high, probably Gensler, said, let's do this, and told each branch that's involved, figure out a way to make this work. That's what we think. I mean, there's still we have a 10% chance still that there could be like a major rug pull. Like somehow they just go, no, we're not ready, and it's a big disappointment. So I'm not saying it's a 100% chance, but the more routine this gets, the better off it is. Because before it wasn't routine. It was radio silence and then this really awful sort of nasty denial, unnasty, but like disappointing denial. And you can understand that 3 or 4 of these denial letters over 10 years, and then you approve futures ETFs, and then you let a 2x futures Bitcoin ETF out, which is BitX. You have to shake your head, and I think all of this points to just illogical positioning of the SEC. So now they have no legal grounds. The logic looks awful. And so it started to become politically untenable, I think, to keep denying them. It's just too much PR risk now to come out and be like, oh, yeah, here's this new reason. Let's move the goalposts. So anyway, I think all of that is put pressure on them. And it's the easiest path for them, to be honest with you. If you are them, the best thing to do is just approve it and move on with your life. They should not fight this anymore. And the market's ready for it. You know, there are major market makers who can deal with this. There's plenty of liquidity. They've been launching these spot products in other countries right and left, and they've worked fine. We got to see them act during the FTX drawdown days. They did a good job. You know, you'll see the discounts widen a little more than you like, but in a crisis, that's normal. In 2020, bond ETFs had a little bigger of a discount than you like because it's a little stress. So again, but we monitor how well it tracks during bumps up and, you know, crashes, not crashes, but drawdowns that are steep. And it's fine. And in the U.S., there's way more liquidity. So we think those premiums and discounts will be even smaller here in the U.S. So we've long thought they should have done this. So I know they have to take the L a little bit here, but they should. I mean, what else is there to do? So our legal analyst has said that they have very little wiggle room. Those are his words. So, and that's huge because remember, these are all lawyers by training. So the legal aspect of this is a big factor, and so is the political PR aspect.